Let's roll. This is Countercharge, your podcast for ranks, flanks, and kings of war. Join your hosts as they delve into the world of Panithor and bring you worldwide coverage of all things Kings of War.
Welcome to Countercharge. I'm Blake Robertson, and I'm doing a list building studio.
Good, I'm Rob Enough, and I'm super excited to have the best sideburns in Kings of War. Blake, how are you doing this evening?
Doing well. How about you, Rob?
I can't complain. You know, let's get a sense of who Blake Robertson is. I know you live in Reno, Nevada, but give us your gamer origin story. You know, how did you get into wargaming? And take us through that crazy path that got you to Kings of War.
Holy moly. So I was kind of a surf skater kid. Think Lords of Dogtown. That was pretty much me. And one day I'm skating by this shop that has all kinds of military stuff and games and models. And, you know, as a kid, I don't know, 12 years old, had to go in there. And it just happened to be models and war games and that kind of thing shop. And I think the first white box of D&D was in there, and started talking to the owner and came in and started playing games. Started with Avalon Hills Air Force Dauntless, and just started playing games and ended up working at that shop when I was 13 till when I was 19. And like I said, just game the whole time. Played Ancients back then, was my favorite. Played a lot of World War II 285th scale stuff. They had a dirt table there, which was fantastic.
Maybe there's not a lot of old grognards listening to this, but explain a dirt table, because the first time I played on a dirt table, it was like I was a kid all over again.
Oh, dude, dirt tables are fantastic. What it is it's ours was, I think, a 4x8 table and it has sides on it, and then it has dirt that has a heavy clay content in it. And what you do is the night before, you come in, you shape the whole thing the way you want it. You put roads in however you want to put everything in. And then what you do is you spray it down with water, and you come in the next day and it's gotten hard. And you can even paint it if you want, because when you break it all apart, it's just dirt and sand. You'll never see it, but you can, you know, set out all your terrain. And so you make a big 3D board, a 4x8 3D board, and it's fantastic.
I played many a tank game on that.
Right.
Were you using like micro armor?
Yeah, we were using GHQ's micro armor stuff, yeah. And I think we were using like a thing called tank charts back then.
So what you're saying is you're old, Blake.
Yeah, I am.
We're talking 70s, right?
I'm 60, but I started playing when I was 12, so
okay.
Yeah, I have a little bit of history. And then I kind of came in and out of the hobby for a long time. I'd come in, play some games for a few years, and then I felt like getting back into gaming and went into Comic Kingdom and just kind of saw who was there when I was available to play, and fell in with the X-Wing guys. That was really fun. And then that kind of died off, and Cody introduced me to Kings of War, which, you know, scratched my rank and flank itch, and I've just been playing it and loved it ever since.
And you're part of the Jackalopes Club, is that right?
Yep. I named it. So yeah.
Yeah. So maybe give us a sense of who are the Jackalopes.
Just a bunch of guys that get together, play Kings mostly, but I mean, we're playing MCP, we play Battletech, we play Dead Zone, we play Firefight. You might see an Armada game every once in a while. We play a bunch of other games too. Some of us are looking at Trench Crusade right now. I got a few guys playing Clash of Spears, which I love that system. Nobody knows about it, but it's really cool.
They were at NashCon a couple years ago demoing it. Yeah, a lot of people, I mean, it's got a good following, I think, in the historical area.
It's fantastic. I mean, you can actually skirmish in that game because you're allowed to react to when somebody issues a charge or a shoot at you, you can react if you have the command points. They can run away. You can kite. I don't know. There's probably about 10 to 14 of us that are there almost every Thursday because we have a night set out. Periphery, there's probably another 10 guys. So we like going traveling tournaments.
Yeah, and it's the first time I met you was at Lone Wolf many years ago.
Yeah.
And so you've been to a Masters a few times now, right? How many times have you attended the Masters for the West Coast region?
4 times. Year 5 for me.
Now, are you going to get to play because you're hosting it?
Yeah, I'm going to get to play in this one, so that'll be nice.
And it's in your backyard, right?
Yeah, I think Britton and Jeremy are pretty much running it, and then I think Kyle's doing best of the rest, Kyle Timberlake, and I've kind of been doing making sure the terrain's all there and stuff. So yeah, there's a bunch of us involved. Nick got the hotel and the casino hotel and the rooms, the halls and the rooms for us. So it's a team effort out here on the West Coast, that's for sure.
I'm looking forward to Reno though. It's going to be a great event.
You want to, and the food around here you're going to love it. Within a block or two, some really good food.
Well, Blake, we're here to talk List Builder. Are you ready to go into the List Builder studio?
Yes, sir.
The List Builder Studio.
First up, we're going to cover some general list building principles that you use to make your Kings of War lists. But to kick us off, what draws you to an army? Is it, the model range? Is it, a perceived weakness or maybe a way an army plays?
In general, it's list flexibility. I used to play Byzantines in Ancients, and with Clash of Spears, I'm playing Carthaginians because they have a lot of mercenaries. So it's almost like, let's say, a Northern Alliance list where you can cherry pick from all kinds of different areas, right? The reason I played Night Stalkers was definitely the model range, and I just thought it was an interesting army that I could have a lot of fun with to paint and to play. For that, I started off playing dwarves, and then I played ogres, and then I played Night Stalkers, and now I'm playing Abyssals. And I'm playing Abyssals because I was kind of getting tired of playing Night Stalkers, and I wanted to play a new army, and I gave a list of armies and I made Chris Finnegan choose for me, and he said, "You're playing Abyss." So, all right. And I started playing Abyss.
Talk to us a little bit about your Night Stalker army, because you use, is it the black light reacting paints, which is pretty awesome.
I used a lot of bright colors. I used a lot of fluorescence in it. I thought that was an interesting take on them, right? Like, I kind of envisioned the void or the bit, as almost like deep sea, and like they have all those fish down there that are bioluminescent or all those crazy colors. And in my mind, I've tried to talk to Ben Stoddard into it, but he hasn't taken the full bait yet. That's how the Night Stalkers see each other, is these bright colors, and maybe they're only shadows when they come into Panathor, but for themselves, they see each other super bright. So that's the way I wanted to paint them, and it was fun. It was really hard because I started with white, and those colors do not have a lot of saturation.
Absolutely. When you're building a list, do you consider the theme of the army?
I don't know. It kind of tells itself. Like, I've built a lot of stuff, you build motorcycles or you build whatever. And sometimes when you start a project, the project tells you what it wants to be as you go along. Does that make sense? And a lot of times I start off with an idea in my head, and then I let it play out as it goes along. When I start with a new army or with a new army, let's say I was going to start a new faction. What I like to do is I like to start with what I call a stone soup list, which is pretty much one of everything. just to see how it moves, see how it plays with the other pieces in the army. And some stuff that looks great on paper doesn't fit with how things flow or work, right? And some stuff doesn't fit with how I play and think. So I start weeding those out and weaving things together, and that's how I end up with a list.
You're sitting at your computer, you've opened Companion. What's the first thing you're thinking about when you build your list?
For a new army or for...
Let's go with the new army.
With a new army, like I said, I stone soup it. I just grab a little bit of everything and I try stuff. I've started writing lists a completely different way for existing armies or armies that I know what the units are and what they do and how they work for me. One thing I love about Kings is that I don't think net decking or net listing particularly works well with the system. I've seen too many tournaments where two guys goes with the same list and one guy's at the bottom and one guy's at the top. So a list isn't a guarantee, right? It has to work for you. When I'm writing lists now, what I do, and this is the funny part because I play because I enjoy playing, and my win-loss, I love winning just as much as the next guy, but my happiness is not tied to a win or a loss. So I like to have fun when I'm playing, and I like to have the toys that I want. So now the way I do it is I have a couple of must-haves in a list, and I make sure those must-haves are in there. And the way that the Bandit Companion works is you can do that. You don't have to sit there and build the pieces out to build to those items, right? You can put those items in there and then build backwards to it. And then I figure out what I need. And I'm kind of an all-comers list guy. You kind of have to lean one way or another with the point structure, right? But I like all-comers lists. I like having a little bit of everything. Ogres taught me to have characters because characters can do fun things for you at the end of the game, right? They can definitely save your bacon with grabbing objectives or being in certain zones and stuff, and they can sneak around a lot better than sometimes bigger the units can.
Do you consider the armies you're potentially going to play against and put mitigation in your list? Like, are you considering what happens if I face a shooting army or an Alpha Strike army? I mean, are you actively thinking about that as you're building your list?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you always have to sort of think about, like, okay, if this list faced a shooting army, what would I do? If this list faced a flying army, what would I do? If this list faced, a brick wall kind of army, what am I going to do? Alpha Strike, I don't really think about that so much because there's ways of mitigating that, right? I mean, that's why we all carry some chaff or a bunch of chaff, right? Is because then you can stall them out, and once an Alpha Strike army is stalled out, they're not so threatening. But the stuff that's really hard to defend against or to counteract is the flying, shooting, speed 20 or speed 10, nimble stuff. I mean, what the heck, So that's the hardest to build against, I think, in my opinion.
Would you consider yourself a proactive or a reactive player?
I'm pretty much a reactive player. The way I see a game is it's a moving puzzle that my opponent and I are controlling, right? That's the fun of playing something, right? Like, I don't like playing solitaire games, and I don't like playing games against the computer. If I play an RPG on the computer or something, it's PvE. I got to have that. Shooting bots is one thing. Outthinking your opponent is another, right? That's where the fun is for me.
Are you trying to ask your opponent questions or answer their questions?
I mean, you got to do a little bit of both, but one of my mentors and a hero in this community, Kyle Poole, told me, make them answer an uncomfortable question every single game, every single turn, all the time. Make them just, what am I got to do? Yeah. Make them answer an uncomfortable question. Even when you set down your army or hand them your list, hopefully, they're going, what am I going to do against this?
Do you use Universal Battle?
I haven't in a while. I think it's a fantastic tool. I think it's a good way to test things. I think it's a good way. When I used it a lot was during the pandemic, when I could get games in and play tournaments, and got to play some guys in Germany and England, and that was really fun to be able to play in different places, and even back east, right? Because we don't get out there very often or get to play those guys. But I think it's a great tool.
How do you consider flexibility in your list? You kind of mentioned you're a combined arms guy. So you're looking to build combined arms to give you the various tools to add flexibility. But are you also thinking about each individual unit and giving, are you someone that tries to have multiple roles for a unit, or, this is my hammer, this is my anvil?
No, I let the units tell me what they want to be more than anything. Everything's chaff. If you've heard that, I believe that everything can, I like to have a little, some holding power. A lot of people say speed kills. In my opinion, speed gives you flexibility. Speed gives you, some freedom to do some stuff. Threat projection is huge and probably just as big as actually doing something in a lot of ways, right? Keeping people at arm's length is just as useful as taking them off the board sometimes,
Are you trying to incorporate speed into your list, and maybe are you even trying to incorporate multiple speeds so that you can project different threat ranges?
There are certain things that I got to have. I got to have some speed to be able to take care of if my opponent has some speed, right? The other thing is you need to have, I've seen people pull it off without any, but for me personally, you got to have enough shooting or spells or whatever, to keep people honest, right? Because then if you go up against a heavy shooting army, they have no reason to come out of their corner, right? But if you can run up while you're chipping away, then they're going to have to come out, I don't know. Like I said, I like a little, the situation dictates as I go along. I try to set things up, but mostly just try to, just play solid.
Along with speed, there's flyers, right? So talk to me about how you're thinking about flyers when you're building your list, and are you considering anti-flying units, to face your opponents?
Yeah, flyers give you a ton of flexibility. And yes, I do have units that are in my army and almost all my armies that are anti-flyer units that can go out there and touch them and make sure that they don't fly past, make sure that they aren't shooting at me while I'm, trying to get something in range to do something about them. Another thing that's interesting, and a lot of people don't talk about it, but is heights, That's one thing you have to play with and pay attention to. If you can get different heights so that you can layer your army enough that all of it can see and all of it can do, that's super important. I think way back when Jeff Swan said something about that on Countercharge, and I about jumped out of my chair cheering because a lot of people don't pay attention to that, and they get bound up because they got great units, but they can't see over each other or to do anything, right? That's one of the serious strengths of Night Stalkers is you have from 0 to 6 or whatever, right?
That's an important point, because if you actively try to have multiple heights in your army, it helps with the checkerboarding and layering, your army out. So you can, combination charges, multi-charges are much easier when you have different height units where they can see over one another. So.
Right. I mean, that's where what is it? Height 4 is the magic height, right? So you can see over hills. You can see over most of your other troops. If you have a height 4 flyer behind something, you can get those easy flanks. It's just...
And still get cover in most cases as well. Yeah.
Right, and still get cover, right? Yeah, exactly.
When you're building an army, when you're building a list, are you thinking about combat groups? Hey, these 4 units need to work in together, or That's not something. That's not a thing you consider.
I listened to one of the other list builders. I'm sorry if I don't remember the gentleman's name, but I hadn't really thought about it that way, but I actually do. I do build combat groups basically, or yeah, because these guys are going to work really good with each other, or these two guys can be split and, or these four guys can be split 2 and 2 either way, or they can all go together. Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize I was actually doing that, but yeah, that's something I do.
When you're building your army, do you have a preference between hordes or regiments? Like, are you a guy that always takes the horde, or sometimes you take the regiments, or sometimes it just depends on the unit?
Depends on the unit completely. Yeah, I mean, all the way down to troop level, right? So, I mean, the unit tells me what it wants to be. Like look at scarecrows, right? Depending on how you have your army set up, regiments could be good, hordes could be good. I'm not a legion guy. It's just too much, too big. It you're just inviting triple charges and sometimes quadruple charges. That's just not fun.
Yeah, and on that note, let's talk about, the armies you play. Like, how are you considering the number of drops when you're building your list?
I think 12's too little for how I play. I like to have 13, 14, 15. Any more than the armies I play, and the style that I play, drops more than that don't really facilitate. They don't work for me. I got to have some stuff that stays. I got to have some stuff that punches. I got to have some stuff that can fly around and do what it needs to do, or jam between stuff so that I can deal with things. Yeah, I kind of like 13, 14, 15. Right in there is like my sweet spot. And 14, 15 probably more than anything. So,
in terms of drops, though, they're not all created equal. Talk to me about how you balance scoring units versus individuals.
Try not to have very many individuals. I think playing ogres early on really taught me that I don't like to have a lot of them, but I do want to have 1, 2, 3 of them at least, because you need them to perform certain roles. If you can get a flying individual that has a decent amount of speed to it, that can really help guard your back line, or weasel in to take out something in his back line that he really would like to protect.
Let's talk unit strength. How are you using that concept when you're building your lists?
I pretty much don't pay attention to it. But I never really have a problem. I think I'm always kind of over 23, 26, 28, something like that. So I'm pretty median of the road there, I think, maybe even upper median of the road.
I'm curious, are you not thinking about unit strength because the stuff that you typically put in your list is durable? So it's not like you're overly concerned that you're going to lose unit strength quickly? Or that's not even a consideration either.
I guess because I'm not thinking that way in general. I'll figure out unit strength as it comes along, right? Like towards the end of the game, I'll start looking at unit strengths across the board, and I'll start looking at unit strengths where I'm at and go, okay, I can win these or lose these or whatever. But I think unit strength handles itself if you write a solid list.
If you're focusing on scoring units and you're taking 15 units, you're probably going to end up with enough unit strength to be competitive.
I know in my armies, I probably, with my abyssals I've been running, I only have 2, and with my Night Stalker armies, I probably have 1, maybe 2 that are individuals. Other than that, I don't run a lot of individuals. I think running ogres back in the day, good old flag guy and stuff, taught me how to not need individuals, because I was playing ogres in second and they didn't have any.
Exactly. Talk to me about inspiring. When you're building your list, do you have like a certain number of sources, 1 per battle group?
Probably like to have 3 or 4. With Night Stalkers, I didn't really worry about that. With abyssals, it's really hard not to have 3, 4, 5 sources of inspiring in there. That's one thing that army just kind of has in spades. A lot of people don't see that, but it has a ton of inspiring. Almost all the characters inspire, the warlocks inspire, the just about everything inspires. So it's hard not to have a ton of inspiring.
You kind of talked about how the unit or the army kind of tells you does it need to be a regiment or a horde. What about magical artifacts? Does that, does the unit itself kind of inform what you think they need from its profile? Magical artifacts, are you a guy that spends a lot of points, a little bit of points? Are they the first points you spend, the last points? Just how does magical artifacts work with your list building process?
The list tells me, but for me, I've been a serious boys before toys always, and try to keep artifacts and spells to a minimum. What I tell my new players is that I tell them two things. This is a 6-turn game, with the possibility of 7, but this is a 6-turn game. You need to get and go. And by loading up, let's say, a warlock with 6 spells, you ain't going to get them off. They're not going to work, right? So maybe 2, maybe 3 for your casters, unless you're, one of those guys who gets to cast all his spells that turn. Having 2 or 3 that have potency is more important than having 6 or 8, in my opinion. Now, same thing for magic items, right? Or for artifacts. They really have to do a lot of work. I mean, I could go down and put items on all my stuff, or I can have another unit, or maybe even 2, right? And those things can do a lot of work that those spells could do.
Yeah, and that might be another reason why you don't have to consider unit strength as directly, because you're just looking at having as many units as you can. In terms of spells, though, are you looking for offensive spells? I want the lightning bolts and the fireballs, or are you more of a wound mitigation, healing, that kind of thing?
I think Tom Mann has said it in Fanatics that Bane Chan is a mid-tabler spell, and I have it in every list because it's nice to hit, but sinking some wounds is super, super important. So I try to have some Bane Chan in there. So I guess that's an offensive spell. I do like Lightning Bolt, and playing Night Stalkers and playing Abyss, I have a little bit of that to look for. I like some terrain mitigation because both those armies have no terrain mitigation, basically. So, but I don't have it in my list right now. So that's, I just have to deal with it. But I do like terrain mitigation. I was really sad when they took away Caterpillar. That really bummed me out. I don't know. I mean, like I said, wherever the army's weak, that's where I need to shore up a little bit, right? Put a little grout in the cracks there.
Well, let's talk about terrain. When you're list building, is the J-Boots an auto include for you? Or are you more looking to having units that, maybe have Pathfinder, or they're fast enough to get around the terrain? Just talk to me about how you account for terrain when you're building a list.
Sometimes it's an auto include. It really depends on the army. But the last 2 armies I've had didn't have really a lot of terrain mitigation, so I've just kind of had to lump it. And I'll tell you the truth, a great thing for terrain mitigation is stuff that hits on a 3, and that and crushing helps with terrain mitigation. It's kind of something that maybe some people don't think about, but if your army hits on 3s, you're already better than a lot of troops that are going to get stuck with a 4, right? And that's why I don't really like stuff that hits on 4s so much, because you have to really be sensitive to terrain. You have to be sensitive, to all of that, right? If you hit on 3s and you run through some terrain, I'm on 4s, it's not horrible. If you hit on 4s and run through some terrain and now you're on 5s, that is horrible in my opinion. So
let's talk deployment. When you're building your list, are you consciously thinking about how this army is going to lay out on the table?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely am trying to, like you said, the battle groups and where I'm going to put them in certain situations. Am I going to, do the old Zulu, bull's head with the horns, or am I going to try to strong side someone, right? Or how am I going to do this?
When you're selecting which units you drop, do you place like the most obvious things first? You're trying to use deployment to mix up your opponent?
Yeah, I think that I save things that are more flexible to be last. So that, like, let's say, well, right now I'm running, I run the Seductress is probably my favorite unit in the Army. So I really can deploy the Seductress on one side of the board, and in a turn or two, I can have her completely on the other side of the board if something happens, right? If I need her over there to block up or to go take out a unit, I can run her back into the center and have her jump lines. The units that are more flexible, I think I put down later. Um, I'm kind of one of those guys that looks at the terrain, and then I have pretty much a deployment. This is no big crazy secret, but I have a deployment, and I line that deployment up dependent on terrain more than my opponent per se.
So let's talk scenarios. When you're list building, are you considering the scenario types like, objective, movement, loot, bluff, progressive, or, you're a fan of lone wolf for those crazy Texas scenarios? I mean, are you accounting for all the different mix of scenarios you could possibly play at an event?
No, I think what the deal is that I give my army enough flexibility that the scenario, I benefit from how my army moves and how it works and how it runs from my build rather than, building to a scenario.
Right. So you're not consciously saying, I want to have a unit for the push tokens. You're just building a combined arms army that has a lot of different tools, and you'll figure out how to use the tools for the various scenarios as it comes up.
Right. Like I said, right now, the way I build a list is I have, I've been playing this for a year and a half, maybe 2 years now. And same thing with Night Stalkers. I have units that are solid, that I love, that, maybe they aren't the best units in the list or in the faction, but I love playing them. They work for me. I understand how they work, and I start with them, and then I build out after that, right? And there are certain units that are like must-haves for me, and then after that, then I kind of fill in, and I try new stuff every once in a while, So sometimes I'll just wipe the slate clean and go, okay, let's try a completely different thing, and I'll learn about a unit that didn't make sense until I started playing other units that I don't play. I don't know how that explains.
Well, let's talk everybody's favorite topic, command orders. How do you account for them?
I don't know. I've never played with them yet, so.
You guys on the West Coast are usually like cutting edge. I thought you'd be all over it.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not totally against them. I think they're going to need some refinement. I think they're interesting. I think they're going to be super fun for, our Thursday nights and, one day fun days and stuff. I think for big time competitive, I think maybe in fourth if they refine them some. And I'm interested to try it. I can probably get a couple guys here to play around with it, but I haven't seen a tournament yet that is, running them out here, or, in the West Coast, Pacific Northwest kind of deal. So
does the scoring system being used at the event affect your list construction?
No.
How about playing on a clock? Does that matter to you when you're building your list?
No.
All right.
Not at all. I literally, the only time I was clocking or getting close to clocking was when I first started playing Abyssals, and I ran a real shooty army. So I had all that shooting and I had all that regen to roll. I just was not used to that. But usually, I mean, I've end games with 20 minutes on my clock. I think my max I've ever finished with was 22 minutes on my clock still.
When you're building a list, are you hoping to go first? Are you planning to go first? Planning to go second? Does that enter into your list construction process?
That doesn't enter into my list construction process. I think the Army dictates that. Like, when I was playing Night Stalkers, I always went second. Because Wind Blast is so powerful at the end of the game, right? You can blow people off of objectives. You can blow them out of scoring zones. You can do all that. I think any of the armies that allow you to have Wind Blast or Enthrall or harpoons that pull you in or whatever, I think they benefit from going second, kind of. And that's just my personal belief. I know everybody says you need to go first no matter what, but depending on what's going on, I mean, a lot of times I like going second, so I'm weird.
How does that affect your list building process? Like, walk us through what happens when the book comes out. What do? You go back to your lists, and what's that process look like?
Normally, you just go in there and see what's changed and see what you can benefit from, right? Or what kind of points have changed things up to where your builds aren't legal, or, oh, shoot, they just gave me some points. I can put J boots on something, or I can, give the Warboar of Kaba that no one ever takes on something. You know what I mean? You just go and play with your lists. With the Abyss, it was just like a rewrite almost, right? So I'm still messing with it. I'm not. The worms, the Nagiri, I thought they were going to be kind of a trap for me and where I run them in my list. They are freaking awesome. And, I thought I was really going to like the Berserkers, and I haven't learned to play them properly yet. So, I don't know. You just gotta figure stuff out.
In terms of Nagiri, are you making maximum use of the 4+ regen aura? And if you are, though, how are you also keeping the Nagiri alive? Are you sort of keeping them second line?
Yeah, they're sitting in the back. They're second line, third line, whatever. The last game I played, they gave that +4 not only to themselves. I mean, whatever they are, that right. In between 4 to 6 units per turn benefited from that.
That's pretty good.
Because I gave them the horn.
Yeah, and if you were using command dice, you would be able to re-roll a unit's regen for the turn.
Right.
4+ and roll it again if you miss.
Yeah.
Pretty good odds.
Yeah.
How does the hobby affect your list building? Are there instances where the hobby trumps your list building?
Oh, hell yeah. Completely. That's why I don't play goblins.
Because you don't want to paint goblins.
No, I don't want to paint millions of goblins.
Right.
I love goblins. I love the idea of them. I want to do a real horde army like that, right? And, of course, being a semi-disciple of Mr. Poole, I definitely want to give goblins a try. But, man, sitting down and painting hundreds and hundreds of goblins is daunting for me because I'm a slow painter. You want to do a good job. You want to do them right. I mean, you go out to these tournaments and shoot, even here in Reno, man, I'm like mid-table for my hobby. But I go to Lone Wolf and stuff, and it's just like, oh, man, should I just start drinking? So, I've gotten a lot better, and I'm getting better, and I'm actually learning to enjoy to paint because I think one of my problems is I have to batch paint 30 guys at a time or 15 guys at a time or whatever. So I don't get to do that cool, fun one miniature thing that a lot of people.
Well, you're painting an army, not a model.
Right, exactly. And that's why, like I said, goblins, one thing that I haven't done with Abyssals is done the lower Abyssals, right? Because I got to do probably 2 hordes of those at least, in my opinion.
For sure. If you're playing 2300, does it change the way you build a list versus if you're playing 2000?
Not really. I mean, not 2000, you don't have as many toys, but you're not facing as many toys, right? So I still try to do an all-comers list. Maybe, I have to take out a line unit or a line unit and a something tricky, right? Or, maybe I just take out a unit and something tricky and then make one of the other units a little bigger because I, have my balance and have my idea of what's going on. I think Bay of Kings is the only tournament I play out here that's 1995. We play Refugees, which is a great tournament. I think that's 2200, but then we get a special character on top.
What's the most overlooked thing that impacts successful list building?
Heights.
People just not thinking about it.
Yeah. I think, okay, so here's an illustration. I was playing on UB, and And I was talking, I don't remember who I was talking. Oh, I think it was Kyle Poole or somebody like that. One of the Midwest guys. I don't remember who at the time because that was a few years ago. But I was playing Soul Flares, and they were, I guess they were trash talking Soul Flares, but I was running them behind my scarecrows and then running a cross pattern, jumping lines to get flanks. And they were trying to use them out on the wings like you would like a Lohi or something, right? And they were like, oh, that's how you're supposed to use them. Back then, they only had 9 attacks. And I was still getting 18 attacks, crush 1, thunder 1, in somebody's side. And their whole line's looking the wrong direction even if I don't kill that unit, right? So, yeah, I think that knowing that, you have a height 4 that can be behind a height 3 that can be behind a height 2 gives you a lot of flexibility. I think, like I said, I think heights are huge.
What's the most important question that a new player should ask themselves when they're building a list?
What do I want this to do? Do I want this to be a brick wall? Do I want this to just be a speed demon army? Do I want this to be an all-comers list? Do I want this to be a shooting list? And then kind of, you can never just do completely one thing, Jeff Radigan. You can never do just one unit, right, Rob, with your siege breakers?
Yeah. That ship is sailed, though, right? At this point, that ship is sailed.
Yeah. You broke the system. But you kind of have to have something in there, right? I think with new players, what they just need to do is start to understand the mechanics, and a new player needs to know that you need chaff. That's the biggest thing that new players forget. They want all the hammers and they forget chaff, or they've got a brick wall that you can't get through, but they don't have any chaff to slow down the charges, right? So,
how has your list building process evolved since you started playing Kings of War?
I think I fell into the same traps as a lot of people. I didn't have a lot of chaff at the beginning, so I figured out that was really important. I figured out that I really like to have some speed. I think that was a reaction to playing dwarfs at start. Although I played rocks, brocks, and rangers, so I had a little bit of movement, and that was back in second when brocks were pretty good. And then later on, I kind of figured out that I needed to have enough shooting to keep people honest. I think Abyssal Dwarves and a couple other armies just sat in their deployment and shot me off, and I needed to make them honest. So that came in, and then just trying to build the most badass, toughest list for a while. And now I just build a list with the things that I really, really like and the things that are fun to play, and then I fill in things to make them better, and to give myself some balance off of those things. But to me, playing the game is the fun. This community is fantastic. The people we play are all fun to play, and it's a great thing. So I build my list that way, and that's really how it goes. I start off with the things that I like to play, that I have fun with that unit, and then I add in the filler, right? Or not the filler, the stuff that, holds down the center or holds down that kind of thing.
Well, next up, do you have a list you want to share with us?
This is a, pre-2024 list. This list was funny because it has the things that I like in this army, but really, because I knew, or actually Clash of Kings had already come out, but we couldn't play it at this last Jackalopes. So I was like, I'm not painting a bunch of stuff in hopes that, because my other lists just weren't working. So I go, you know what? This is the last one. I'm just going to play what I have painted and what I like, and just have fun and not really worry about the tournament. And I ended up lucking out. And believe me, anybody who's, kind of won a GT knows that it's a lot of luck to do that, right?
Absolutely.
This list is 2,300 points. I start off with 3 Abyssal Guard. I really love that unit as a regiment. The the -16 Nerve is fantastic. The melee 3 is and defense 5. I mean, I don't know what else you can want. That smaller footprint, instead of having a horde, sometimes you can really mess with people getting double charges on you. And a single charge, a lot of times, unless something's real beefy, is not going to take them off in a turn. So, now next I have a troop of gargoyles. And those gargoyles are really for Zazu the Betrayer, to use them as a bank so he gets his extra dice. And then I got 2 hordes of Molochs with the Despoiler Champion. Those things just, you Bane chant them and they hit like a brick. I'm hitting on 3s and then anything but 1s, rerolling 1s, and stuff folds under them, but you got to protect them. I got two regiments of Tortured Souls. Those guys are solid. Didn't think they were going to be as good as they are. They are fantastic. Abyssal Fiend, for some reason, people are really scared of him. I don't think he's as good as everybody thinks. I ran him a lot at the beginning, and he just ended up getting murdered all the time. But he does attract a lot of attention on the board, and so that in itself is important sometimes, to put that giant or put that Cronius or put that whatever out there that really doesn't do, in my opinion, the work that he should do. But people are scared of it, and they're going to double and triple charge it to try to get it off, and the rest of your stuff can do what it needs to do. I have an Abyssal Champion with the wings, so that and Periscope, so he can sit behind lines, or he can look over lines and snipe characters. The Seductress, and I don't know. I mean, there's Jesse Garrett will tell you that it's the funnest, best thing to play in the army, and it's just murderous, and everybody's scared of her. But I run her with Spellcaster 2 and knowledgeable for the spell, and Host Shadow Base 3 and Gnome Glass Shield. So she just runs around and creates havoc. Warlock with Bane Chant, and I had Drain Life on here. I didn't ever use it. Zazu the Betrayer, and then Manifestation of Baal, which either he just wrecks face the entire game, or he's off on turn 2. I don't know what it is. It's like a flip of a coin with that guy. But I do enjoy playing him. With Zazu and him, if I run them together on the same side, I have, at the beginning, for at least a turn or 2, I have Lightning Bolt 15, which can take out some chaff or soften units up that I need to have softened up. So that's the list.
How many unit strength is that list?
It's 25 with 14 drops.
Yeah, pretty solid. And how has it been faring you? How's it been working on the table?
I played it that one tournament. I'd never played it until then. Played it that one tournament. I went 4 and I had 4 wins and a tie.
So is that your awesome general prowess coming through, or is that an indictment of the players that showed up?
No, we have good players there. I played Sean Polka. I played Brenton Williams. I played good people. So it's not like, I ran through. I think that tournament was 14 or 16 players. It wasn't tiny. It wasn't huge, but it wasn't tiny. And I think I lucked out because, any time you're at a tournament or a GT or whatever, there are lists that you don't want to see. You don't want to come up against it. You don't have enough answers for, right? I mean, it's a rock, paper, scissors, Spock, Gorn, whatever it is, right? Like Danny's lists, holy cow, that's just not something I don't want to see. A lot of flying, shooting, speed 20, nimble, blah, blah. I don't want to see that. It's just not something that I want to deal with. Brenton's list was really hard, and if I didn't hide behind a hill with my Molochs and stuff, I would have lost that pretty handily. If I didn't realize pretty early on that I was in second place, I just had to do some duck, dodge, and dive, and make him come to me somewhat.
What did the Army do well?
It had my favorite units in it, so I just got to have fun. That's what the Army did well. It has a good solid center with those abyssal champions, right? It has two just ridiculously awesome hammers, although they're a lot glass, right? And it had the speed and maneuverability with a couple of units that can project threat, instill fear, stop or slow down flyers, things like that.
Was there any issues with the Army that you think you might make some adjustments to going forward?
I'll probably never play this list again. I just kind of threw it together, because it was before the Clash of Kings. Well, Clash of Kings had come out, but I couldn't use it for the tournament because it was too close to the beginning of the tournament. So right now I'm working on lists and trying to figure out how those new units fit into my style of play and the Army that I want to play. The Nigiri are fantastic, but you add here, you got to cut there, right? So now you got to figure out how to make things work.
So as you're listening to this, we have Blake's awesome list. We'll have it in the show notes for you to check it out. It's going to be interesting to hear back, though, Blake, if you like some of those core things, because some of those units are changing and some really aren't. Like the Molochs are pretty much the same, right? Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to hear how you keep playing. You're going to keep playing Abyssals, right? That's the plan?
Yeah, at least probably through Masters. I really like the Horsemen, and I think the Horsemen, if you play them right, they're so solid and such a good unit. And they just got better. Just flat out better.
Defense 5, Fearless. Amazing.
Fearless, and pretty much they'll be in range of the Nigiri, so they'll be re-rolling their wounds on 4s.
They make really good chaff, too, right? You got a troop of those guys.
Yeah, if you run that regiment size, that's a good chaff unit. Yeah, I would have run them with the, again, the height thing. I would have ran them with the Berserkers, but they're both height 3. So it kind of causes a problem with lines of sight and things, right? Hard to double charge things unless they're height 4 or above, right? That's why I ran them. What I've got on a list that I'm messing with now is I have the Tortured Souls running with the Nigiri behind, so that the Nigiri are screened.
With that, though, Blake, are you ready for the 10 questions?
Yes.
What is your favorite army?
Ogres are great. I think they're great for everything and everybody.
What is your least favorite scenario?
Smoke and mirrors and kill or whatever it is.
What drives you, creatively or competitively?
Both, I guess, because competitive is creative for me.
When your opponent rolls Snake Eyes.
Oh, well, same thing what I say when I roll.
When you roll Snake Eyes.
Oh, well, part of the game.
What is your favorite hobby material?
Hobby material? Paint.
What is your biggest gaming pet peeve?
I can't even say that. I don't know.
You can say it.
That's
sure,
hard.
say it.
It's not a... Okay, well, here's the thing. I'm not a big fan of a large company that's in our gaming space. Just not a fan of how they do things and what they do. My biggest pet peeve in gaming is not them, but when everything has to be compared to them and everything has to be a translation of them, right? Like, someone will come over and go, sci-fi space army, what would I play in this fantasy land? It's like, it doesn't equate, you try to help them out with that, like, play style or something like that, but I don't think everything has to equate to that company and what they do.
If you had to replace miniature wargaming with another hobby, what would it be?
I guess it'd probably be computer gaming, because I can still do that kind of thing, right? Right now, miniature wargaming, I don't play a lot of computer games. I play golf, the greatest game ever invented. I do a few other things, but I'd rather play in person than on the computer.
What other miniature war game would you not want to play?
Anything by a certain company.
And the last question, Blake. If you had a romantic evening with Mr. Ronnie Renton, what would you whisper sweetly to him?
I don't remember this question. Next round's on you.
Fantastic answer. Fantastic. Well, Blake, I really appreciate you coming on a List Builder. It's always great to get different people's perspectives. It's always interesting to hear people with different perspectives on the game. You know, I like the fact that you're sort of just like, the Army is the Army, right? And it tells me what I need to do. You know, if it's an anvil, it's an anvil. If it's a hammer, it's a hammer. I'm not going to put the square peg in the round hole. I think that's
It's not just that though, right? Like some things look like something on paper, and then when you start playing them with the other pieces of the Army, they take on a different role, somewhat. Like, I mean, if you look at like the cavalry, right? The Abyssal Cavalry, and you can sub this in wherever you want. It looks like, oh, I'm going to run this up the board and this. No, it's a second line unit. Play it like they did historically. Play it to, oh, he just killed one of mine. I'm going to clap back at him with that cavalry, with that speed, right? And that's where that cavalry is going to shine. It's not going to shine taking double and triple charges in your front line. It's going to get worked. So, I don't know. That's what I mean when I say that the Army kind of will start telling you more of what it is, you know. I don't know. It's a weird thing to explain.
Well, thanks for coming on, Blake. I really appreciate you taking the time. For those listening, no matter how dire it gets, don't ever forget Countercharge.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Countercharge. Please let us know what you thought of the show by emailing us at counterchargepodcast@gmail.com, on Twitter at countercharge15, or by commenting on the Countercharge Kings of War podcast Facebook group. If you enjoy the show, you can help others find out about it by leaving positive reviews on iTunes. Until next time, keep countercharging. Music is a composition of Kevin MacLeod and is licensed under Creative Commons.
But I've been on these things with you, and you cuss more than all of us, and you don't.
100%.
You just cut it out.
I just cut it out. Yeah, 100%. 100%.